The Cowboys' 2024 season is essentially over. You're not making a playoff push. Now, currently, the Dallas Cowboys have the number 11 pick. They lose all the tiebreakers with their strength of schedule, which is very frustrating, for now at least. In a class that isn't as strong as I would have hoped in terms of the top-end talent. A couple guys I was hoping would have breakout years haven't really had them. Having an earlier pick would help you. So we're going to break down a bunch of different names who, if you get that top 10, that top 7, that top 5, that top 2 pick, you can strongly consider adding, if or even including if you trade down, which I'm not opposed to doing either. Now, we are not doing a Cowboys mock draft yet. I'm kind of hoping they can get higher up in the draft order here. Do you want a 2025 Cowboys mock draft? If you do, share today's video for me in the comments section of today's show. Share it, social media, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. Just click that share button above the comments I meant to say and send it to wherever you need to send it. Now, in general, I think every position group, depending on how early you end up drafting and the talent available, outside of quarterback, because you have a guy you've paid, if you're asking for a quarterback, I'm sorry, you're not operating in reality. It's not going to happen. Deal with it. And tight end, because there's no one worthy of a top 10 pick or even conversation of a top 10 pick. Every position group should be available for you. Outside of that tight end quarterback duo, you should be able to consider every available option because you've got needs across the board. And the number one option, I don't think there's any conversation here. It's Travis Hunter. It is very rare to see a player be, whether the team's on offense or on defense, he's the best player out there. That does not happen. If he were just a wide receiver, Travis Hunter would be in the top 5 conversation. He's going to have a 1,000-yard campaign. He's got a touchdown per game. He doesn't drop passes. His body control is incredible. He's a solid route runner. He's still kind of raw as a wide receiver because he hasn't played a lot of wide receiver. He's also an elite shutdown corner. Texas Tech did not look at him outside of a free play they had. Guess what happened on the free play? Hunter picked it off, leaping backwards. His ball skills on defense are incredible. This is prime time. This is Champ Bailey playing both ways at Georgia. Everyone says, oh, he can't play both ways. Why not? He keeps doing it at Colorado. Now I think you can add some more body mass to him. He's kind of thin. Like maybe he's just your corner and you play him out there as your number 3 receiver. Get him some packages. He is a special football player that is the best one in this class. The other big name that always pops in the comments section is Ashton Jeanty. And this might come down, both these guys really come down to where you're drafting. If you're picking 2 or 3, you might be in Travis Hunter range. If you're picking 2 or 3, you're probably not going to take a back that early. If you're picking 7 or 8, that could be prime Ashton Jeanty / Bijan Robinson range. This is the production through 9 games. Yeah, I'm sure you've all watched the highlights. In general, I say don't watch highlights. Just you can watch highlights of Ashton Jeanty because every carry is a highlight for Ashton Jeanty. He's averaging 7.7 yards per carry when every single team knows got to stop number 2 and they can't do it. He also lit up Oregon, so it's not just the level of competition. By the way, Jeanty is a superstar back. A lot of this comes down to the old running back conversation. One other element here to consider, depending on how early you're drafting, and if you can fill all of your needs and just go BPA, you can get so many people on board with taking a back at number 7 or whatever, wherever you're picking, if you fill all your needs via free agency. It is a loaded running back class. Amarian Hampton, Caleb Johnson, not ranked, Nicholas Singleton, Quinshawn Junkins, Trayvon Henderson, Ollie Gordon, Jaden Knott, Kyle Monanagai, RJ Harvey, Taj Brooks. That's only 10. There's like 15 backs. I'm like, yeah, that guy's a draft-eligible player pretty clearly. It is a loaded running back class. So if you miss on Jeanty, that's okay. You can still get a good one day 2. So would you draft a running back in round 1? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know at the pinned comment of today's video, especially if the ad comes here on YouTube. Now, the anti-RB brigade, which they're right to say it, points out we got to have a good offensive line. That was the issue with the Giants and Saquon Barkley, right? The O-line class is not great. I like Kelvin Banks more than Will Campbell. Not everyone agrees. That's fine. Both guys are going to be regarded by at least some in the NFL circles as guards because their arm length is not particularly good. How early can you potentially take a guard? Do you have them great as a tackle? This team historically values arm length in their draft prospect evaluation. They could be prime trade down candidates, but these are guys that you will consider in round one. I don't know if they fully fit the got a tank for Will Campbell, for Kelvin Banks. Trade down is very viable there. If you have a giant question mark in one of your offensive line spots going to the draft, you're going to have to consider it. And they're good players. Are they blue chip prospects? Other offensive linemen, there are some like the other Texas and LSU linemen more. Cam Williams is definitely better traits, but he's just not there yet. Ariante Ursary, Wyatt Millum are later round one, day two guys. The O-line class, I was hoping for a little bit better growth from some players that haven't quite materialized. But it's a need for you, so you have to consider it. This is going to traumatize you guys, but we need to have a real conversation. And that conversation is that Mason Graham fills a massive need for you and is one of the best prospects in this year's NFL draft. The production might not totally lay it out because Michigan's terrible this year, and they are not a team that gets to pressure the quarterback very often because they're always down. I get the trauma that many of you hold with a Michigan football player. I am begging you guys, ignore the helmet. Pretend it's not the maize and yellow or maize and blue winged helmet. Pretend it's a Michigan State helmet. He's awesome. He's athletic, explosive. He gets penetration. He can stop the run. And it double bothers you guys because both Michigan defensive tackles are actually very good. Kenneth Grant is I'm actually more on board with the concerns around Kenneth Grant for this team because he's more of the upside pick than Mason Graham is, but he's a freakazoid athlete. You might not like it, but I think there's a very real possibility the top two defensive tackles both are at Michigan this year. Sorry about Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State. I know, I get that there's trauma. They're good, and Mason Graham is exactly what I have been asking for years on this Cowboys defensive line. He just happens to wear the wrong helmet for some of you guys. Don't scout the helmet. That also goes for Will Johnson. Maybe you're a little bit more on board because Jordan Lewis has played better than Taco Charlton and Mozzie Smith. But you got to ignore the helmet, guys. That's going to be a constant refrain for me. If it's just because of the team that they play for, it's a bad argument. Bad argument. Will Johnson is an awesome corner. I think at times here he got a little bit too aggressive trying to make some plays and get some picks and boost the stock a little bit, but he's been a lockdown guy since day one at Michigan. We mentioned last year, hey, he's going to be a first-round pick next year. Corner's not as big of a need, but he is one of the better prospects in this year's class. So can you handle another Michigan pick? Honesty is allowed. It is a safe space to express your concerns and handle your trauma how you need to. 1 for yes, 0 for no. All right, how about a non-Michigan player the rest of the way here? Nick Scorton out of Texas A&M. I would like to see him shed 10 pounds somewhere in that ballpark. He's bigger than most defensive ends. He's listed at 285. I kind of want to trim down to 270, 275. I think it adds some more explosive ability. He's a really good run stopper, though. He kind of got some Tank Lawrence to his game. And he was great at Purdue and having a good year at Texas A&M, which has got a bunch of good prospects, by the way, up front. Another edge who has very much come on the past couple of weeks after a bit of a slow start to the season, finally getting going the way I thought he was going to this year, it's Abdul Carter. And this guy's going to get every single Micah Parsons comp because he played for Penn State. He wears number 11. Oh, and he was a linebacker last year and is now playing as a pass rusher. He has been dominant the past 2 weeks. Go watch the Washington game. He was cooking, man. 16 TFLs, 8 sacks, 15.2 pressure rate. The last couple weeks here have been really good for Abdul Carter, really impactful, really impressive. If you go with the Trayvon Diggs, Ron Bland going to be healthy, all of a sudden your cornerback room looks a hell of a lot better, and if you get some more pressure, the corners look better too, type of deal, right? Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. It is the place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. It looks like this. This was the Monday Night Football group chat agreed upon Prize Picks slate because we look out for each other. They put a kicker on. I feel like they were trying to troll me, but I wrote that anyway because it's all for one or done for all, or whatever the exact line is. It is. I always do the flex play, by the way. That way, if I get one wrong, I still come out on top. The flex play hit rate is way higher than the all or nothing hit rate there. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS. Let's get to some receivers here. Arizona's, you knew he was going to be on here. Tetairoa McMillan. That dude's a freak, man. Now, he's got a kind of unique body type. He's built like Mike Evans if he lost 15 pounds, which is a little bit of a unique athletic profile that doesn't have the greatest hit rate, but he plays like he's not 6'5/6'4" and change. He plays like he's 6'1" in the sense that that's how smooth and fluid he is. He is an awesome playmaker. He is a very different style of guy than CeeDee Lamb, which I think fits well with you. I don't know where he'll check in on my board. I'd rather have Travis Hunter, obviously, but McMillan for me is I think a safe top 10, top 15 pick in this year's class. And we've all made the comment, you need to get another playmaker. There you go. You have one. Now, Luther Burden out of Missouri has not been as good this year. I think the overall quarterback play has limited him a little bit. He's also different. He is much more of your after-catch machine guy. McMillan has some good after-catch stuff too. Burden's able to get the ball in his hands, and good things tend to happen. Which, again, I think actually fits pretty well with CeeDee Lamb. Lamb can do a bunch of stuff for you. Burden can do that too. I think the 2023 campaign is just so much more valuable in terms of what he is and what he can be. This year was a bit of a down year. Hurts draft stock a little bit. I don't know if either of those guys are going to be... Maybe McMillan ends up being it. Burden maybe a notch below still, which changed how I felt going into the year, frankly. Maybe those guys aren't top 5 picks and true on tank guys, but top 10, like, hey, you need a receiver. Impact piece. It helps you in a way you don't have those guys on your roster at all. So who do you want the Dallas Cowboys draft? 2 more names plus some bonus ones we'll get to here in a second. Let me know in the comments of today's show. The other guy that's going to get some Micah Parsons comparison is Jalen Walker out of Georgia. He plays a bit of both right now for the Bulldogs. He plays off-ball linebacker. He blitzes a ton. He does a lot of impressive things, impactful things that allow this team to be around the football, and he gets a bunch of sacks. His pressure rate's been okay-ish this year. He's a little bit of a tweener for me, and that scares me a little bit, but he'll probably be a top 15 player, top 20 player, so I did want to make note of him. And his teammate Malaki Starks, because you guys know I'm a sucker for a safety. I had to do it. If only they had listened to me and drafted Brian Branch and they took Mozzie Smith. Oh, man. Look, Starks is not off to the elite year he was last year, in previous years, but he's got great fluidity in coverage and able to cover guys from the slot and make plays as a deep safety too. The safety value has been devalued, but he's a good football player. And this is the number 1 safety in the class. Apologies to Kevin Winston. I can't be too mad if they finally take my safety that I've been begging for years, right? For more Cowboys draft coverage, subscribe. We've got you covered all season long with updates and more on the NFL draft. Hit that sub button so you don't miss out. Some other prospects here, honorable mentions. You can put guys like Tyreek Williams in here. Isaiah Bond I don't think he's going to be a top 10 guy for me, but he brings you the speed you don't have. And he's probably not a full-on tank guy, but there will be people that think he's the number 1 or number 2 receiver in this year's class, depending on where you put your Travis Hunter. 2 corners I like. Siobhan Ravel, Benjamin Morrison, good players. Michael Williams, James Pierce have not had the breakout year I was hoping for. They've been a little bit quieter than what I was hoping. Pierce is kind of like your undersized, freaky edge. Williams is a bigger guy. Both guys are probably going to be first-round picks, though. Deion Walker I like a lot. He's also a weird body type, which is a red flag, but he's a DT that makes sense for you. He's a freak athlete. You don't see guys his size, like 360 pounds, who can play edge and also drop into coverage. He's a freaky boy, but the lower body size and just being like a run stopper at that size isn't there either. He's kind of a weird tweener to an extent, which is a concern for me and others. But the dream scenario is he falls out of round 1 and you get him in round 2.